Good evening. My name's Tony Harper. Welcome to Timeout with Coach, and we're at Coach's Timeout in Brazil, Indiana. And our guest this evening is Rich Schelsky, and if you don't know, he's regional champion this last weekend, heading to the semi-state, and we're going to find out a little bit about maybe some of the things he doesn't want to talk about. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tony.
Everybody wants to know basketball, especially this time of the year. And I don't want to do that. I want to get to know you because you're the man behind the throne at the present time. Tell us a little something about your family and how you got into coaching.
Okay, well, my family,
I know this story, so I'm not going to go to the bathroom.
My family, growing up, my father was a school person. Matter of fact, when I was born, I was a North Putt Cougar. We lived actually on Raccoon Lake, and my dad was the principal at North Putt. And then we eventually moved to Bainbridge. Left there to go to Seeger. He became the principal at Seeger, and then eventually the assistant superintendent. And I spent most of my younger school days there. I think I went to North Putt through the first grade. Went to Seeger through the 7th grade. He became assistant superintendent before we left Seeger. Wanted to be a superintendent. Took the superintendent's job at Bloomfield. So I did a lot of traveling in my young life. So we lived in Bloomfield for 3 years. He was the superintendent. My mother was sick. Actually, got sick with cancer when we were at Seeger. It kind of went into remission. So that's why we moved to Bloomfield, thought everything was good. We get to Bloomfield. We probably honestly would have stayed there probably forever. Loved the place, but Mom got sick again, and cancer came back. So my dad's originally from Clinton. He's a Clinton graduate. All of his family grew up in Clinton. My mom's family is all from Rockville. So he wanted to get her back home in the little time that she had. So the superintendent's job at Rockville opened up when Dr. Cambiani left there to go to Indianapolis. And so he took that job, and I spent the last 2 years of high school at Rockville High School, and that was kind of my journey.
Now you played as a freshman and a sophomore
at Bloomfield. Yep.
The first time I met this guy, or I didn't meet him, but we played Bloomfield at Northview, and I walk into the gym, and there's this little kid shooting from maybe just inside the half court line, just jacking him.
Billy Keller.
And just jacking him and making him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this guy? And then he was a thorn in my side for 2 years there, and then they moved to Rockville, and he was a thorn in my side there for the next 2 years when he was playing. Wonderful player, man.
Yeah, those were the fun days. And to go into my coaching, so in that time, the head coach at Bloomfield, so my first years of high school, the head coach at Bloomfield was Steve Brett, legendary coach around here, Hall of Fame guy. The JV coach was Ron McBride. He was also my baseball coach. Still to this day, very close to both of them. And then moving to Rockville, Mitch Lancaster was my basketball and baseball coach. So I was fortunate enough to play with some of the best coaches, or play for some of the best coaches that have coached in the Wabash Valley. So, it was pretty easy to want to be a coach and want to be like them. And that's the one thing, I don't, I am who I am, but when I sit back and look, I've always thought that I've tried to take a little bit from each one of them. No offense to Coach Brett and Coach McBride, but they didn't like to play real fast, and we played a lot of slow games. Coach Lancaster would like to score. He kind of lets you play a little more. And as a coach, we've had to do both, and so I've kind of taken a little bit of everything from each of them, and it's kind of formed who I am.
Well, you were smart enough to listen and learn.
Well, they may not say that I was back in those days, but now as an adult, I probably was.
Well, it takes time. I mean, the brain stem doesn't connect until you're about 25, 26 years old to the logic. So
I am 50 years old.
50 years old.
So those of you watching in the Wabash Valley, I will be playing in senior golf events this season. So
you don't get to move up to the senior team.
Yes, I do.
That's 62, man. I fought that my whole life. I finally got there. That's the only good thing about getting old is you get to hit from the senior teams.
Well, you've had pressure all year.
Yep.
and I was one of the stupid ones, maybe not stupid, depending. But before the season ever started, a lot of us expected you to be where you are now. That's a lot of pressure on you indirectly, but the kids hear this socially, in their activities and everything else, social media and everything else. Has that been a problem, or have they embraced it?
Well, I think obviously they've embraced it, but I think we had to deal with a little bit of that. I mean, I'll go back to our loss in the Classic. That was the first time where we got beat by a really good team. Obviously, they're playing in the same semi-state that we're playing in this weekend. They're a great team, and not saying that we should have beat them, but that was the first game with this group that I felt like maybe the pressure got to them a little bit. They were supposed to win, and they were one of the favorites to win the Classic, and that's who everybody was talking about, and I felt like in that game I thought I saw it kind of happen, in my own eyes in the second half, where, man, these guys got tight, and the pressure got on them and got to them, and it affected them. But I think ever since then, I think they've embraced that. Now, I've tried to do some things to help that. One of the things after the Classic that I did, just to make sure that our guys understood, and because we had talked about it. We had talked about it in the summer. We had talked about it in the preseason. We talked about it all early season, that the bullseye was on our back. Everybody knew that. We've had a lot of success, and we had a lot of guys back, and, with that comes a lot of expectations. So we played Sheridan on January 4th at our place. Really good game. They're a really good team. They got beaten their sectional by a good Tipton team, but they're a really good team, and our guys didn't really know much about them. I knew they were good, and that's why we scheduled the game, because it was going to be a really good game. And we played pretty well for a while, had a comfortable lead. They wouldn't go away. They ended up making it a pretty close game, and I think our guys were shocked after the game. Like, they didn't expect it to be close like that. So the next week I got an old practice jersey and printed out a big colorful bullseye and put the bullseye right on the practice jersey and hung it up in our locker room. It's been hanging up ever since, and that's been kind of our reminder that, hey, this is who we are now, and you may as well embrace it. Yeah, you may as well embrace it. It's not going anywhere next year either. We are to the point where that is who we are, and we've got to live with it and just embrace it and take the best with it. And we've done a good job with it. I mean, the hardest thing for me, and it's what I tell our people, like, when we've come back the last 2 weekends after winning, and having pep sessions, quick, short pep sessions for winning, to me, the best compliment I can give these guys, and to me, their greatest attribute, I actually got a little bit emotional with them in the locker room before our game last Saturday. I walked in. These guys are usually pretty loose. I walked in. They had been in the auxiliary gym shooting, and, I walked in with like 15 minutes to go before warm-up time. You could hear a pin drop, and I was like, uh-oh, that's not us. And so, I kind of changed my script of what I was going to talk about. And I told him, I said, guys, no matter what happens in this game, I know everybody expects us to win. They think we should win, all of that. But no matter what happens, what we have done, people would give their right arm to do, or, to experience that. So I told them, their greatest attribute as a team is when they play in these games, for the most part, like 99.9% of the time, these games that we're supposed to win, specifically in the tournament, they win. And to me, that's the greatest attribute of this team is they know how to play when the lights are on, and I think definitely they've embraced it, and we're going to have it again this weekend, and we'll see what happens.
So, Coach, you went 24-4, and you played some really good teams along the way. You kind of went through, as I thought you would, and you never think that as a coach when you're going into it, but you went through your sectional pretty well, and but then you faced Centerville, and I don't know much about Centerville, but I actually went to watched Northview play Crispus Attucks, but that seemed like it was a fairly good game.
Oh, it was a great game. Centerville's a great team, and again, like for where we're at, our people, and it's not a knock on our people. We just expect to win now.
Yeah.
And we have drawn the same sectional winner 3 years in a row now. It just happened to be a different team. We had played Northeastern the first 2 years, and Centerville beat them this year. But that wasn't a surprise to me. Centerville had been in 3A, and with the new alignment, got moved down to 2A. They had beaten Northeastern twice last year. They don't have a senior on their team this year. We will probably see them again next year. They're a bunch of big, strong, physical, athletic kids. They play the right way. They're disciplined. And that was a dogfight.
Low scoring.
Very low scoring.
47,
And credit to them. They were one of the few teams that we've played this year that could match up to Carter and Isaac, or at least take them away a little bit. Took away their offensive rebounding, which to me, that's, one of our big strengths is, we have a lot of guys on the perimeter that like to let it go, and I'm okay with them letting it go.
Sure.
We get a lot of those offensive rebounds. In that game, we didn't get as many because they were big, strong. They were good rebounders as well. But they played us. They played great, and it's 18-18 right before half. Their ball, they actually called it. They ran the clock down from over a minute to go down to 15 and called a timeout. We came out and changed defenses, kind of forced them to take a tough shot. And, of course, Johnny on the spot, BT Luce, who is known as a shooter to everyone. Yeah. But I'm telling you, the guy, when BT plays his best, it's not just his shooting. He does all kinds of other things that don't really show up. But there was, I think it was one of those rare rebounds where the ball hit the ground, like nobody touched it.
Right.
And he, there's seconds are ticking down. It's 3, 2. He picks it up and takes 2 dribbles and shoots it from probably 65, 70 feet and drills it. Huge momentum, shift going into halftime.
Sure.
We never lost the lead after that, but we could never put them away. They, to their credit, they hit some huge shots. They have, like I said, they have some really good players. The coach's kid, Kaiser, is a really nice player. And he made 2 huge threes in the fourth quarter. We'd get up 7 or 8, he'd hit a 3. We'd get up 6 or 7 again, they'd hit a 3 or get into a 3-point play.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that's that's one mark of a good team is that they don't go away. And Centerville was a really good team, and that was a big challenge, and it was a really good win. I know everybody from the outside looking in probably thinks, well, they should have won. John Harrell predicted them to win. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter.
Exactly. I knew. I tried to explain to my wife. I was like, you don't understand. We have our hands full this weekend.
When's
like,
Harrell-
You don't get where you're at without having your hands
no.
I didn't know Harold wore a uniform.
That doesn't matter, And then of course you're going. That was a 1-game regional. Used to be a 2-game regional, and then now it's a 2-game semi-state.
Yep.
So you guys you're headed to the semi-state, and I know as a coach you will never ever look past. And at Northview I was never fortunate enough to get to a regional or a semi-state, but I was when I helped Mike Saylor at Terre Haute South, and it's tough playing 2 games in one game because you can't look past the first team, and so you got to prepare a little bit for the second team just in case you win, and so it's kind of hard to make adjustments on that, isn't it?
Well, and we've played in it both ways. The 21 team that went to the state finals that was back when it was a 2-game regional,
right.
1-game semi-state. In this current team's 3-year phase of our run, every year's been a 1-game regional and 2-game semi-state. So we've done it both ways. The 2 games in one day is a different animal. Like last week, by Tuesday night, I was done with Centerville. Like all of my scouting and prep, I was done. Like, we felt like we knew them really well. I had watched, all of the film I needed to watch on them. I had everything clipped up. This week's a little different, and fortunately in our situation this week, we do have a familiar potential opponent. So it actually cuts the time down a little bit.
Sure.
Last year when we went to the semi-state, we played Forest Park in the first round. So obviously we had to prep for them, but we also had Brownstown and Park Tudor. So that was 2 other teams we had to prep for. This year, not saying we're not going to have preparation for Linton, but we've played them twice. We know them. And so it cuts a little bit of that time down. But, just the physical part of winning 2 games in one day, that is something that, kids don't do. Like in high school basketball, very rarely do you play 2 games in one day. You know, there are some kind of holiday tournaments and things like that that might have a 2-game in one day deal, but we don't. We don't. You know, our holiday tournaments, the Classic, it's 1 game a day. Now it's bang, 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 and real short turnaround time, but it's not 2 games in one day. So.
And then you got to figure out what to do between games.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, and you got to make sure you're doing something.
Fortunately, we've been through this, so that stuff, you know, I literally just have to pull up on my computer and look at our itinerary from the year before. Obviously, got to find a place to go in between games, but you know, it's basically just copy and paste. And you know, that is the one like good thing of. Obviously, there's a lot of good things about what we've done in the past, but you know, that's one thing that is less stressful. Is we're in a routine, like our guys understand postseason routine, so all that stuff gets taken care of real quickly. And you know, I passed out our itineraries today, and they all know that everybody's on the same page. So you know, but the 2 games, yes, and I understand why the IHSA did it. I don't know yet if I like it better or worse. I think I probably like it better, and I understand their reasoning. You know, the sectional's a grind. You usually have to play 3 games in a week to win. All familiar teams, you know, so it's a grind. To me, the hardest games to win are the sectional games because everybody knows everybody. It's your kind of somewhat local rivalries for most sectionals. But then when you get out of the sectional, you know, there's not as much familiarity, all of that. But, excuse me, winning the 2 games in one day, you know, it's a huge deal. Like last year for us when we beat Forest Park, that was a huge deal. Like you know, this group hadn't been, you know, they had been to the semi-state the year before and got beat pretty good by Linton in game 1. So they hadn't been to the, you know, that final game. They hadn't had that opportunity. So, and then of course, you know, Brownstown Central's sitting there, but that was different. So now this year, thankfully, they've been through them both. So they understand, like, you know, the one good thing about last year is our guys understood, like, taking care of their bodies, and that's something we preach this week big time. You know, fluids, cramping is and cramping's a big issue in the 2 game in one day, and so we have a lot of things in place to help with that, and we have a lot of things in place in between games to help with that. So we feel comfortable with our routine and feel very comfortable about all that. You know, it's now just up to go and play in the games and winning a couple really tough games most likely.
We're going to take a 70-second break. We'll be right back, and we're going to look a little deeper into psychological aspects of coaching and some of the individuals on Coach's team. We'll be right back.
Indiana Sports Network Cups, given to guests on Timeout with the Coach, are provided by Fearless Designs.
Are you looking for a roofing company you can trust? Look at TJD Roofing and Exteriors. TJD Roofing is your expert in roofing excellence. TJD Roofing specializes in shingle, metal, and commercial roofing, and they do all 3 styles of roofing with pride and integrity. Get peace of mind with TJD Roofing. They have over 500 satisfied customers with warranties of up to 50 years. Remove the anxiety from your next roofing repair or new roof. Get proven experts you can trust. TJD Roofing and Exteriors.
We're the Browns, and this is our account. Our relationship with Riddell really began when we were kids, so when we started our business, it seemed like a natural fit for us.
Riddell's provided all of our financial needs for both personal and business, and we could not be happier with the level of service that we're provided.
Riddell National Bank has helped us grow our business so that we can help grow our communities with the core values that we both share. If you're looking to grow your business, Riddell is your best option.
Welcome back to Timeout with Coach at Coach's Timeout in Brazil, Indiana, and our host is John Crooks.
Yeah, let me throw a little plug in for Timeout too for anybody that's watching that's interested in coming watching the NCAA games on Thursday and Friday. We're going to be open all day, starting at 11, and we'll have the games on. We have 7 TVs.
Free drinks?
Well, maybe for you. But we usually have a good crowd, and some friends come from out of town, and we have a good time in here. We're usually not open for lunch, but Thursday and Friday open at 11. Come watch some games.
good drinks and good food.
Good drinks, good food. Yeah,
It's a lot like Cheers.
Yes,
You
it
come
is.
in and
Yeah.
everybody knows each other.
Norm.
Yeah, there you go. You touched on something earlier, which I think is usually overlooked in coaching, and I'd like to take you back a little bit from what we were talking about, is the psychological aspect of how you have to handle your team even when you're winning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different when you're losing and trying to get your confidence back and build the unity. But when you're winning, how do you keep that up? And how, is that a big strain for you also?
I mean, there's definitely.
That's the part that people don't look at.
Right. No, there's definitely challenges to it. I mean, it's not like we just roll the balls out and show up and we're just that much better than everybody and win. I mean, winning is hard. And especially, you know, like around here, we have so many great teams and programs and so many great coaches. So, like, when you get in the Classic, like, all those coaches do a really good job of game prep and planning and scouting. Everybody knows everybody. And, yeah, you can be better than the other team, but if they take your stuff away or take your strengths away, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you become a little bit more pedestrian. So winning's hard, and, again, a great attribute of our guys is that they stay very grounded. Like, you know, that has been my fear as a coach. I've never had to deal with it, but in this current, like, 3-year run, I've often, you know, gone to bed at night worrying, like, okay, are we going to get the big head? Like, are we, you know, have we just going to think that we've arrived and don't have to do as much anymore? And to our kids' credit, they come to work every day. You know, like Trey on a Sunday, he'll get up and he'll go to the gym for 2 hours by himself. I mean, one, that's a perk of being the AD's kid and having keys and everything.
Yeah, but growing up, you always had the janitor that left the door open for you so you could get in and practice.
But no, our guys have stayed very grounded with that. But as a coach, you always worry about that, especially, you know, when you deal with a lot of success, and we are dealing with a lot of success. You know, you're afraid at some point that's gonna rear its head, and it hasn't with our guys. And again, to me, that's a testament to them. It's their attributes as human beings, I think. We have great kids. I mean, we have great students. You know, they don't want to miss school. Like, you know, they do. You know, my house, for some reason, on game nights, especially home game nights, because they have a little more time before we get on the bus, my house seems to be the meeting point for all of them. They go get their Subway and they come back home. And I remember a game back before Christmas, must have been the Parke Tudor game, and, you know, I try to take a nap a little bit, you know, try to just relax. And so I'm laying on the couch, you know, trying to take a nap, and here rolls in 5 of our guys, and they all sit at the dining room table, they eat their Subway, and then all of a sudden I look up, and all 5 of them have their Chromebooks open, and they're doing homework.
There you go.
I mean, it's Friday night, and we've got a big game. I mean, so again, like that's our guys, and you know, obviously their parents and their families and how they've been raised, they do things the right way, and they've stayed very grounded.
Well, you told me one time when I was doing a game at the gym there afterwards, you told me, and you can't get where you're at without your kids being competitive, but you told me that, you know, practices are sometimes cutthroat.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting after each other, you know, and sometimes you have to get in between them or whatever, which is, in my opinion, a very good thing.
Yes.
Because they you know, you don't want them to carry it too far, but you don't want them to be complacent, and so, you know, maybe the best team that your first 5 has played is your second 5. You know, and
on some nights,
yeah.
and that's, again, not a knock on some of the teams on our schedule, but on some nights that is very much the case, and they probably get more, you know, we get very competitive when we break, you know, varsity on one end, JV on the other, and varsity's going through their 30 to 40 minutes of defensive stuff every day, you know, one-on-one stuff, one-on-one, you know, literally one-on-one dribble limitations, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4. That's when it gets really competitive, and
it's personal.
And yeah, absolutely. You know, Trey against Ren. You know, and obviously, you know, Ren has been injured, and you know, we haven't been able to do that for a while with him. But those are competitive. Like, there are days where neither one of them gets a shot off. Like, they, you know, if I put a 3 dribble limit on them, both of them are in each other's grill enough that they struggle to score. And those two guys are really good players. I mean, but it's fun to watch that, and it's fun for that to come out in them, because that's when you know, like you got guys that are motivated and are, definitely trying to get better.
And it's contagious.
Yes, and it becomes 100%
Yeah.
contagious.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing, though, you've got a secret up there, is your gym.
Yeah.
We did 5 games up there, televised 5 of your games this year. Enjoyed every one of them. We look forward to being there. But your gym is a throwback. The atmosphere, it's like back when we had Brazil, we had Staunton, we had
Yep,
Van Buren.
Yep.
I mean, it was cutthroat. I mean, when Van Buren and Staunton played, Pete Chalis was the coach, and Whitey Rushline was the coach at Staunton. They started out with suits and ties on. Well, first quarter, jackets are gone, ties are loose. Next thing you know, there's no ties, shirts are unbuttoned, sleeves are rolled up.
Sure.
The gym floor became round. The place was so packed out at Van Buren. The entryway, you know how the doors are out there,
Sure,
like
in the
6
front, yeah.
doors, 8 doors across the front,
Yep.
and then you had the foyer, and then into the gym. The foyer was full. They were yelling the score and the action out to the people outside that couldn't get in.
Yeah.
That's the way it was.
Yeah,
Well,
the good
your
days.
gym is packed the same way, and the noise. It is a fabulous place for sound.
Our gym, obviously it's old, and there, with that comes some very big benefits, and with that comes some very big things that, I'd like to see be a little bit better. But, I've always said our gym, from a high school basketball standpoint, our gym is one of the neatest, coolest, best places to play a game. Now, I want to flip that script and say for practice, it's terrible. When you have a full JV and varsity in there, and it's all permanent bleachers. We don't have any room on the sides. The side goals come out over the court, so you don't even have room. Like if you try to use all 6 goals and do a bunch of shooting stuff, guys are running into each other. But for a game, and the funny thing about our gym, and obviously it gets knocked on a lot, and people in the Wabash Valley hate our gym, which I love. Not gonna lie. I mean,
that's a good
I love the fact that people absolutely hate the thought of having to come into our gym and play. But what's funny is when we play, now, with our, kind of expanded schedule and trying to reach out to a lot of parts of the state, and thankfully some of these teams and schools are willing to come play us, which I think speaks a lot to them. I mean, they don't have to come to our place. At the end of the day, would I agree to play them on the road and maybe twice in a row? Probably. I mean, I hope they're not listening, because I do want some home games. But for, the Mooresvilles, the Zionsvilles next year, the Evansville Centrals,
game,
for those people,
Tudor.
Park Tudor, for them to be willing to come to our gym, I respect that a bunch. But the funny thing is, when those teams walk in, they think it's the coolest thing they've seen.
Well, it's a piece of history.
I mean,
yeah.
and
it hasn't changed much.
they
other
don't-
than the floor. Looks
no, it hasn't. And
I love the color of the floor.
Yeah.
the
I
floor's
mean, the
cool.
colors pop.
The floor is cool. It is, and our colors are cool. But that to me is always the neat thing. Like when like obviously I kind of have a dual role on home game nights. I'm obviously the coach, but I'm also the athletic director. So I got to make sure if my assistant Davey is not, if he's busy doing something else, the other team shows up, I got to make sure I get them in their locker room, all that, show them around, all that. And that's the funnest part, is when you walk them through that tunnel and they look in the gym, they're like, oh my.
Look at this thing.
I mean, it's awesome. And like, when we played Evansville Central this year, I explained to their coach, I was like, it's homecoming tonight. I said, it is going to be packed. I said, there will not be a seat in this house. And he was like, that is going to be the coolest thing these guys will have played in all year, because, everybody's on top of you. And like you said, the sound is awesome in there. And it, it echoes. It gets really loud. Personally, from a coaching standpoint, our guys probably like it. I don't like it
It's
as
tough
much
because
they can't hear me.
Right.
Like there's a lot
That's
of
an
times
advantage if you're a player.
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't hear you call
I'm sure
that,
Trey
Coach.
loves that, but
Good excuse, man.
but
Perfect
I
excuse.
try to call a lot of stuff out sometimes at home games, and nobody even turns around. I'm like, oh man, I hope they got it.
Yeah.
If you've never gone to a Park Heritage basketball game, you're missing it, because if you've seen Hoosiers,
I agree.
it's better than Hoosiers.
Gene Hackman would love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gene Hackman did a hell of a job.
He'd say,
But-
welcome to Indiana basketball, right?
Yeah, but you experience a game at Park Heritage, and you will walk away with big smiles.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's always fun,
Yeah.
especially when you win.
Yes,
Well,
for
Coach,
sure.
talk to us a little bit here. I don't know how much time we have about
As much
the,
as we-
the-
as much
the
as we want.
semi-state. You know, you're going in. You're playing Forest Park for the second year in a row. It's and you got Linton on the other side. Could be the rubber game.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, that's what I would like to see.
I'm
And,
pretty sure about everybody in the valley
yeah, I
is what
think
that's what they want to
I
see.
think that's what they want to see. But talk to us a little bit about that semi-state coming up.
Well, 4 really good teams, and honestly, I'm not saying this just as coach speak or because it's the right thing to say. I think all 4 teams could win. Like it's not going to shock me to wake up on Sunday morning and any of the 4 teams be the semi-state championship and be in the 2A South representative. You know, a lot of people don't know a lot about University because they're in Indianapolis, smaller private school. They play a really good schedule.
18 and 9
Yeah,
on the
they
year.
play
I
a
looked
really
that
good
up, yeah.
schedule. They've had their ups and downs, but you know, I haven't watched a lot of them. I'm still on Forest Park. I'll be done with them tonight. But the little bit that I did pop in for about 5 minutes, they're good. Trust me, they're really good. Obviously, you know, we all know about Linton. Linton is, you know, they are very good at what they do. Like, I mean, they get you to play their way most of the time. They have big, strong, physical kids.
Sure do.
They have
Football players.
kids that know how to win, just like our kids. They have kids that know how to win. I mean, you look at Paul Oliver, you know, he played in the state finals in football this fall,
yep.
and now he's playing in the basketball semi-state. I'm pretty sure the Smith kid is a football player, I think. I think they have a few other football players. So their guys know what it's
They're
like
not
to
gonna back
No,
down.
they're not going to be shy of the moment. And so, yeah, and of course I have the utmost respect for them. I think they're a really good team. And again, because, you know, I think they're well coached and they just won't get off script enough for them to have kind of a clunker and not play well or not stay in the game. And, you know, like a few weeks ago when we played them, you could see that. Like,
Sure, yeah.
you know, we got ahead, but we never really could get ahead and put them away because they're just not going to let you do that. So they're really hard out. And then, you know, our first game, Forest Park it's amazing. You know, they had a really nice team last year. They always have really good, strong athletes. So whatever they're doing in their weight room, strength and conditioning, they are doing it the right way. They have, you know, just a collection of guys that they play the right way. They play hard. Their coach obviously does a great job. And historically, they've always been good. Like, they've got a couple state championships, 2 or 3 actually, I think, at the 2A level. You know, I think they've been to the semi-state 5 or 6 times. This is back-to-back for them. But what's unique is that, you know, 2 of their guys are injured. Those 2 are guys that definitely played against us last year, definitely were in the top 6, 7 of their rotation. Their 2 best players graduated. So here, you know,
here they are.
And here they are. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's remarkable. And you know, they've got a big sophomore kid that I think is going to end up being a really good player. Already is a good player, but he's going to continue to get better as he gets older. And you know, their kids are just tough. And you know, our guys don't back away from that stuff. They play very physical. They're, you know, very aggressive, handsy, body defensively. Our guys are used to that. So
Man-to-man mostly?
Oh yeah, mostly man. They'll sprinkle in a little zone, but it's just hard-nosed man. And again, they do a really good job of being physical with you, kind of bumping you off your spots,
Pressuring you,
not letting you get to where you want to go, not letting you catch the ball exactly where you want to catch it. But the good thing is our guys played them last year, handled it just fine. You know, to me, it's going to be a tough. You know, both teams, and you know, I'm not saying we're the most physical team, but we don't shy away from physicality. That's not going to bother us at all. So that game is probably going to be a knockdown, drag out, not for the faint of heart. It's going to be a physical, rugged game. Rebounding's going to be big. You know, our guys against their guys going for loose balls and rebounds. It's a really good matchup, and honestly, I'm glad we have the week to prepare for them. I think, and no slight to any other team in the semi-state, but I think they would have been the hardest prep on 4 or 5 hours.
Sure.
I think it's good that we actually get to
first.
play them first,
Right.
and our guys get to know them all week, and that's who we're preparing for. Because again, they're a little bit different than some teams that we've played. Luckily for us, our schedule's good enough that this isn't anything we haven't seen. But in our tournament run, we probably haven't seen that level of physicality. Centerville was somewhat physical, but they didn't play you hard-nosed man-to-man like that. We honestly haven't been manned hardly in the tournament, which is what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
Once we got into the tournament, I didn't think we would see much man. That's going to be a change, and so our execution. We're back this week to working on all of our man stuff, executing our man sets, trying to get out in transition. We're going to have to be good Saturday, but our guys understand that. On the Monday of tournament week after we win, we don't ever get on the floor. We always just and it's mainly because most of the time once we get out of the sectional, we're playing teams that our guys don't know. Like I could have put a map of Indiana up on the locker room wall. They would have had no clue where Centerville was. Right. Everybody asked me, "Where's Centerville?" I said, "It's right by Richmond." You guys didn't know that? Yeah. Like, I mean, really? But they. So that's why we do that. We don't usually ever watch full game films. Like our guys are, with technology now.
Sure, you can watch.
When we prep for a team in the regular season, they're watching anywhere between 7 and 12 minute scout clip, which is just showing offensive possessions, sets, defenses, all that. In the tournament, we do watch a full game film just because they don't know them. And so we did that on Monday, and I could tell walking out of the room, our guys are confident, and they know they have great opportunity to win. But I also know from playing them last year and our guys' experience playing them last year, they know that they have to be ready. And it's going to be a really good 2A basketball game.
And it's at Washington.
Yep, at the Hatchet House.
Have you had any games there?
This particular team, no. Back in 21 when we went to the state finals, that is where we played the semi-state. So I'm kind of hoping that that's a little bit of fate and maybe a little bit of lady luck showing her head a little bit, but we'll see. You got to go play the games, but it's obviously one of the great iconic Indiana high school gyms.
It's one of the places you got to play.
Exactly. It's one of the places, if you get a chance to play there in high school, you're going to remember that forever. Just like yesterday when we had our semi-state meeting, and after Larry, their AD, showed us around, we're walking back through the gym before we go to lunch, and I stopped all the coaches on the right wing, probably about 25 feet out. I said, right here, 1991. Made a three with about 2 minutes to go to put us up 7, and behind me I hear right as the ball went up, timeout. Coach Brett was calling timeout before it even went in, and he told me, "Nice shot. Don't ever shoot it again." So that's
I've seen it.
That was in '91, and I'll never forget. Playing in that gym.
Sorry, Coach, it was too loud. I didn't hear you.
Playing in that gym and remembering that moment. I mean, it's just a cool place to play. So.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to pause for a second break. Again, 70 seconds. We'll be right back, and we got more stories to go.
Yeah, we've got a couple of stories.
Indiana Sports Network Cups, given to guests on Timeout with the Coach, are provided by Fearless Designs.
Are you looking for a roofing company you can trust? Look at TJD Roofing and Exteriors. TJD Roofing is your expert in roofing excellence. TJD Roofing specializes in shingle, metal, and commercial roofing, and they do all 3 styles of roofing with pride and integrity. Get peace of mind with TJD Roofing. They have over 500 satisfied customers with warranties of up to 50 years. Remove the anxiety from your next roofing repair or new roof. Get proven experts you can trust. TJD Roofing and Exteriors.
4 years ago, I drove my daughter to Riddell National Bank, where she opened her savings account. Today, she's still saving money. My relationship with Riddell is better than ever, too. No other bank focuses on relationships as much as they do. I can count on them for small business loans when I need them. Riddell National Bank helps small business owners and their families grow. both financially and personally. Riddell National Bank, making friends since 1885.
Welcome back to Timeout with Coach. Coach's Timeout in Brazil, Indiana. Coach John Crooks, co-host, and our host. And of course, Rich Schelsky, coach of the Parke Heritage Wolves. And you mentioned earlier about your opponents having some injuries. And everybody, especially playing a tough schedule like you do and as aggressive as you guys are, you've had some injuries this year too. How did that affect you and your coaching, but also how did it affect the team?
Well, yeah, it's been, I'm not gonna lie, it's been brutal to deal with when you have really good kids and when you love your kids. A lot of people see me on the sidelines as being this intense guy and all that, but ultimately at the end of the day, all of our guys know that I love them and that I want nothing but the best for them, and I try to push them to be their best. And so, you have a kid like Ren Harper who is...
No, wait a minute. Ren Harper is absolutely no relation of mine. He's talented.
He's talented.
He's talented. And
he is very talented.
That's not, I don't want somebody saying, well, that's why he asked the question. No, we're not related at all. So.
But when you have a kid like him, he has started every game of his high school career for me. When he became a freshman in high school, he started from day one. Had a great freshman season. Obviously, as a freshman, his role wasn't huge. I think he averaged 7 or 8 a game. But then ever since then, he's been a double-figure guy. He's been basically, our second go-to guy. He's our best defender, our best athlete. He's the jack of all trades. He's versatile. He's strong. Usually we put him on the other team's best player, no matter how big or little they are. That's his guy, and he usually does a tremendous job on him. So, that was very hard to take when he got hurt. I remember telling the team in the locker room, and I got, again, people don't see this side of me, but I can get emotional with my guys, and that was hard for me to tell him because he's been such a big part of our program, and been such a big part of our success that that obviously I knew from that day that was going to change us. Luckily for us,
when the senior leader,
1,000-point scorer, and we, this at the beginning of the year, through the main course of this season with a full availability of players, this is a really good offensive team that scored a lot of points. You take that out of there, 13 or 12 or whatever he was averaging a game out. And all the other things he did, that's huge. Thankfully for us, we are in a cycle right now where we have great talent, and so then, it became Joel Miller's time. And, Joel, as a freshman, I've said this to multiple people, any other team at Parke Heritage, I could go down I've been fortunate to coach them all. Any other varsity basketball team at Parke Heritage, Joel Miller would have been a full-time varsity player from day one. Mm-hmm. But because of the experience we had, we basically had 5 starters back, if you want to count Isaac, and other good sophomores, it wasn't going to do Joel the best benefit for me to try to get him in 4 or 5 minutes a game in the varsity level where he could be playing for sure at least 3/4 of JV, right, being the guy, having to do a lot of things. And so that's the route we took with him. Started to bring him up a little bit during the Classic and during the Christmas time. Started playing him a quarter, trying to get him in a full quarter. And then obviously when Ren gets hurt, then it became his time. He had been playing just lights out on the JV. He actually helped, our JV beat Mooresville right before Ren went down, and it was all, he had a huge game, and he, obviously was the big factor in them winning that game. So then, we bring Joel in, so we've still got depth. He kind of changes our dynamic a little bit. He is a super electric, fast, quick kid with, great skill. So we were actually even able to do a little more defensively than we had done and still kind of keep our normal rotation going. It was kind of a little plug and play with him and Ren. But now when he went down, that changed everything because, now you're
when
taking.
you lose, have to go down to your third.
Now you're taking two of our best defenders out of the game, two guys that kind of played similar positions and had similar roles. Now all of a sudden, we had, I felt very comfortable playing 8 guys, and which is strange for me. I'm not a guy that subs a lot. So one of the things about this season that I had to learn was, I had to sub guys. So we, throughout the main course of the season, we were able to get Isaac out for breaks. We were able to get Carter out. We were able to get BT out some. We even took I've never been big of taking Trey out because he's our only real true point guard, but we were even able to get him out of games. He's used to playing 32 minutes. We were able to play him only 28, 29. And so when both of them go out, now all of a sudden, we're down to a 6-man rotation. We've got guys, obviously it's still a really good 6 players. I mean, it is.
Yeah, it is.
I don't expect anybody to feel sorry for us. But at the same time, our sub pattern changed. Now we're not subbing as much. We're playing 6 guys. We had to change defensively what we did.
Right.
We're not nearly as aggressive. We're playing a lot more zone. And offensively, we still want to try to score and get out in transition, but we also, depending on game situations, we've got to understand the time and score. And if, like when we played at Terre Haute South last game of the regular season, it was very evident that game was going to come down to us, protecting anywhere from a 5 to 9 point lead in the fourth quarter. We didn't have to win by 20. We just needed to win the game.
Right.
And, with like a full complement of guys, we probably try to just end the game. And so, it's been different, but again, that's, to me, speaks volumes of this team. And I've said this also to our fans, that I've been blessed at Parke Heritage. We've had a ton of talent. You don't win games as a coach unless you have talent. I mean, and there are a lot of great coaches that get a lot out of lesser talent. So I am not tooting my horn as a coach. I have very talented players that could play at a lot of different places. But the one thing to me that sets this team apart is their basketball IQ. This is the smartest team I've ever coached. And, you can go back to the sectional week, played North Putnam on a Tuesday night. They struggled, had a tough year, but they did a good job of slowing the game down. And, it was really kind of an ugly game for a half, and then we really got going and kind of put them away real quick in the third quarter. Greencastle game was a highly anticipated game. We had to play zone a lot that night. Did a great job of executing.
Indiana Sports Network.
Double figures, did what we needed to do. We turn around the next night and play a really hot South Vermillion team. And when I mean hot, like not only winning-wise, but shooting-wise, that week they had shot 50% as a team, over 50% as a team from the field, right at 50 from 3, and they had one kid that was 14 to 21 in 2 games from 3. So, I went home that night watching, all my film, and we're not a program that really usually, even in the past, we haven't been one that ever chases anybody. And when we had walkthrough the next morning, I said, guys, we're going to have to chase this guy. I said, we've got to cut the head of the snake off. And I know that's not something we do, but to me, our best approach to this game, our best, making it possible for us to win, we've got to eliminate this guy and his catch and shoot threes. So we have a 1-hour morning walkthrough / film. We get on a bus and go play and execute it to a T. Didn't confuse any of the switches. When they would put him in ball screen stuff. And again, that's the mark of this team. Like, their basketball IQ is off the charts, and it makes it obviously very easy for me to coach. Because,
fun too.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, it makes me look great too. But they can adjust on the fly, and that's again just a huge testament to these guys and their basketball savvy.
Well, I know that on a lighter note, I know that you can't take all the credit because you have some great assistant coaches, and I know that one of them that probably gives you most of the advice all the time is old Roger Rao.
Oh, Raj. Raj has been a long time buddy of mine.
Raj and I go way, way
we
back.
do a lot of things in the summer together. He's a big golfer, just like I am. So we play a lot of golf. We go to Las Vegas together a lot. No, he's been great.
Yeah,
great
worked
to
on
be
the State
around.
Highway together.
Been great to be around. Been great to have him around, and all of our other guys are great too. You know, and I don't know if it's fortunate, unfortunate. I'm old enough now. You know, like my JV coach played for me. You know, which I think's really cool.
Sure,
like it's
yeah.
you know, I'm to that point in my adult life where I have guys that are old enough now to coach with me.
You're actually a mentor.
Yes, exactly. And he's, you know, Landon has done a phenomenal job with our JV in the last 2 years. And, you know, he's one of these days he's going to be a great head coach. And, you know, I've got Bruce Patton, who's also our principal. You know, for him to be willing to do that, you know, that's a lot on his plate. But, he was an old head coach or, you know, was a head coach at Attica, wants to still be involved. So can't say enough about him. Coach Ransom's been with me ever since I've been at Park Heritage. He's kind of the behind-the-scenes guy. He doesn't get a lot of fame, but he anything that I need done, he does. And then, we kind of stole Coach Simmons from Riverton Park when he gave up the Riverton Park job, and he's now our baseball coach. And, you know, so I have a lot of head coaching experience on my bench, and, you know, in my opinion, a very good up-and-coming head coach is our JV coach. And then you've got the old savvy veteran in Raj there. And
Yeah, Raj.
Raj is a riot to listen to on the bench, by the way. Raj is not scared to speak his mind, and I'm sure our guys sometimes don't like hearing some of the stuff he says, but usually what he says is true. So it's kind of funny pacing the sideline and hearing him say something to a guy, and I'd be like, yep, that's right.
He was a little spitfire as a player, too. You know, he was a couple years older than me, but he was a player. He played with Nelson and those guys. Yeah.
Yep.
And I want that picture, too.
No, I'll make sure that happens.
That picture,
Yes.
that'll be good. That'll be good. All right, so
any parting shots you want to take at anybody?
I got to ask
anybody you want to brag on or anything else?
Before we get into the bragging, let me ask you this. So off the subject of high school basketball, let's get into little college basketball.
Yep.
What are your feelings? I know you've been busy and you haven't been able to watch a lot. Like I lay on the couch and watch all this. But how about the NCAA tournament in North Carolina getting in there?
Oh, it's funny you said that. I was actually listening to a podcast on the way down here, and that's all they talked about. The whole 25-minute drive. That is a really bad look. I mean, I'm sure the intentionality of it was not what it's being made out in the public and in the news, but it's a bad look. The NCAA is going through a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah, they are.
I've got some buddies that coach in college that kind of tell me that they don't see it getting any better anytime soon. So, I don't know what the NCAA looks like 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road. You got all these major conferences that, at the end of the day, if they wanted to say, hey, we're going to leave and we're going to do our own deal, I don't really know. I don't know what that looks like and where that goes, but it is definitely made for some controversy for this particular NCAA tournament, and as it'll probably happen, obviously North Carolina's the most talked about and most debatable team of why they're in, shouldn't be in. I think what they have one quad win.
Yeah.
I mean,
And lost a
it's like
couple
1
quad
and
2 and
13.
3s.
Like they're 1 and 13 in quad 1 games. I mean, they really shouldn't be in. I mean,
when the selection committee comes out and says this is our selection, and they only got in because of
right.
Well, the only reason they got
The
in is
metrics
because
are different
they got
now,
in
supposedly.
because of the name on the front of the shirt.
Right. Well,
and that's unfortunate.
And I don't know if you heard this, not to change the subject totally, but Indiana just hired a new coach.
Yep. And
I don't know anything about him. Darian DeVries.
Well, I know when he was at Drake, he did a great job. His kid will come with him, who is a great player. He's going to he'll play in the NBA. I mean, he was the best player in the Valley last year. I mean, he was
Right.
he was tremendous. Some kind of arm or elbow or some kind of injury. He hasn't played since early December. But I was reading through that at home before I came down here, and he'll come with his dad. I hope they get it right.
Me too.
I'm a lifelong IU fan, but it's been really hard to watch for a while. And it's
for
really hard
29
when you
years.
watch what Purdue's doing. And I
Yeah.
love Matt Painter. I love the way he goes about doing things. I love the way his teams play.
Sure.
I mean, to me, obviously they're the epitome of what Indiana basketball used to be.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's kind of the script is flipped so much. Hopefully they get it right. Hopefully the new guy comes in and let's face it, we're in the state of Indiana. If you can't have a shooter or two on your
On your team,
roster,
something's wrong.
then something is wrong, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of great shooters in this
Absolutely.
state. And so I hope they get that right. The NCAA tournament should be interesting. I think Cooper Flagg's as good of a college freshman as I've seen in
Ever,
a long
yeah,
time,
maybe, yeah.
maybe ever. And I think if he's fully healthy and they play well, I don't really think anybody can beat them. But
They're talking about him not playing till the second game.
yeah,
They said something about
Yeah.
that, holding him off for
Yeah.
that one.
Well,
Yeah.
same thing with Purdue with Lawyer. Lawyer injured his elbow.
Right.
And they're talking about maybe not playing
Yeah.
him till the second game.
Right.
But they've got a tough game to start with.
They
They're
do.
High
They
Point.
do.
Yep, they do.
High Point's
You know,
going to be
that's-
tough.
They do.
It's going to be
That's-
fun.
that's-
Madness
Hey,
is always favorite.
it's always fun, man.
Madness is here.
There's
I love it.
nothing better than the NCAA tournament. There really isn't.
And last week we had a young man that you might know from Terre Haute North.
Oh, yeah.
Wolfley
I
was
watched
here,
it,
and
yeah.
he was talking about his his college career, and being a friend of Dusty May.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was with Dusty a little bit Sunday after the game, and Wolfley name came up. And he said, "Oh yeah," he said, he just won last night. Blah blah. Wolfley was correct. They're tight,
Yeah.
and Dusty was following him.
Yeah, they are.
Stay
Yeah.
right on top
That's a
of
hell
it.
of a comeback they
Oh,
made.
Yes,
too.
yeah.
yes. Coach May's a great guy.
Yeah, he's
I
great,
actually got a chance to. He's a Greene County guy, so
Right.
he's a little bit younger than me, so I didn't really know him. And we might have played against each other in the park and stuff like that, but I don't remember that part. But I actually got a chance to meet him at the state clinic last year. Todd and I are both board members on the IBCA, so we actually have to help run the clinic, which is
Yeah.
not near as fun as going as a coach
No,
and,
that's right.
and not having any responsibilities.
The clinic is really a good time.
But Dusty was one of the speakers at the clinic last year, and Todd was the guy that got to introduce him. And when he got done talking, he was out in the hallway talking to us for a long time. He's a great guy, and there's no doubt in my mind they are to this day tight, and
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
he pays attention to not only Todd but some of his other guys. Coach Mays, he's definitely one of the best in the sport right now, in my opinion.
He's top notch.
Have
Yeah.
you ever seen two 7-footers play as well as Wolf
Well, I
and
tell you
Goldman
what,
did together?
the Wolf kid is amazing. Like, he's going to make a lot of money
Yes, he is.
eventually as a professional basketball player, because for that size and that skilled and that put together, like usually you see those big guys that are skilled like that, they're rails.
Yeah.
I mean he's a complete,
he's the real deal.
all-around player at 7 foot tall, and yeah, they play really well together. They're scary. I mean, never know. Win the Big Ten tournament. Maybe they got hot at the right time.
Sure.
They could make a big run.
Yeah,
You
they
never-
could. Yeah, they're
gonna have a tough
although the team they're playing is is really good, and the team that everybody's predicting to make a big upset. So that's what makes the NCAA tournament great.
It's great. Yep.
That's what's great about basketball.
Yep.
And if you don't live in the Midwest, and especially Indiana, you don't understand it, because we go just 35 miles and go across the river
Yep.
into
Yeah,
Illinois, and they play different basketball than
Yep.
we
Totally
do.
different.
Yep. It is.
It
is.
And they don't support it as well as we
Well,
do.
before we close up, I don't know if we're ready to close up, but before we do, I do
Whatever you wanna talk about.
I just want to wish Clay City good luck too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
most
they're,
definitely.
Great team.
They're a great
I've got a
team,
chance
and-
to watch them on film a couple
Chris
times.
is supposed to be our guest next week.
Good.
What an
Chris Ames.
exceptional story. I mean, a school their size to have 10 seniors
I
in
know,
a class
in a
and
class.
all stick it together and all be talented.
Yes.
That is, I mean, it's to me it's a storybook story, and
Yeah.
and I sure hope they finish it off. I mean, that would just be
That would
one
be
of the
They've
most
got-
unique stories in recent Indiana basketball history.
We did a couple of their games, and they've got talent. But man, when they come out and get in your face,
Yep.
in the first minute, and the opposing coach says, okay, well, this will be all right. Second half, their legs will go, and we'll be. No,
They don't go.
Into the game, the
No.
last minute, they're in your face, just like the
and
first
they're big
minute.
and long and strong.
And
I mean, they
they're
just really
aggressive.
have a complete
They're just
team.
as aggressive like Linton.
Yep.
They're here after you, and they're determined they're going to win, and they do. They've had a great
Yep.
year.
So good luck to them. Coach, thanks, man.
Yes, I appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate
I really
it.
do.
Appreciate
Hey,
really
thank
do.
you for being here.
Really do. Appreciate you guys coming and doing a lot of our games.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
we
be there
really
again this
appreciate
coming
the coverage.
year, so
Yeah.
Good luck.
with your permission.
Good luck
Absolutely.
Saturday. Let's take it
Absolutely.
on to the
Yep.
next
We're
level.
going to give it our best
All
shot.
right, sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Coach Rich Schelsky from Park Heritage has been our guest. And next week will be scheduled to be here is Chris Ames from Clay City. And they're in the semi-state this weekend also, so we're looking for another great interview next week.
Yep.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
Okay.
Indiana Sports Network Cups, given to guests on Timeout with the Coach, are provided by Fearless Designs.
Oh, I will.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
We'll have to, once the season gets over.